to start with my conclusions and give you a little context, and then lay out the data if I don't run out of time. And I hope when I'm done, you'll agree with me when I say, huh, that's interesting. The Pecos system, which we're sort of celebrating by association. I think that these are measurable quantities. The largest, weirdest, most interesting sites of each Pecos system stage, from Basket Maker 3 on, are pretty much north-south on the line. Basket Maker 3, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 are all pretty much north-south on the line. I won't go back to Basket Maker 2, and until this morning I didn't realize I had to worry about Basket Maker 1. I think it's a great idea. I think Basket Maker 1, yeah, it's so hard to explain that to people why we don't have Basket Maker 1. Let's take care of that. Okay, a little context. 15 years ago, I published a Chaco Meridian. And I just finished writing a second draft. A draft for a second edition of that book, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that's happened in the last 15 years. I can twist to support that argument. The basic argument in that book was that there's a political history in the Southwest with three capitals, where you had Chaco, moved north, become Aztec, and then turned south and became Paquime. So it's a 4-point problem. You got north, you got Chaco, you got Aztec, you got Paquime. At the time the book came out, there's a great deal of hand-wringing and hanging from the lamppost kind of stuff. But today, I don't know too many people that would deny that Chaco gets, with three other points. The Chaco moved north to Aztec. There's still a few folks out there who don't pay attention to it. Moving south to Paquime, I still firmly believe. I think there were tons of evidence there, and there's still tons of evidence now because I look at architecture. I figured out Pueblo Bonito weighs 40,000 tons of sandstone. Where's your evidence? Well, 40,000 tons of it stacked up 30 feet tall, the size of a Major League Baseball field. I think that that part is still going to wind up working, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The Canadian and American groups work down there aren't really interested in this kind of stuff, but I am. So that's the context for this. As I've been thinking about it, the last few years, thinking that there's a lot of interesting stuff that's come up since I published that book. Time for a second edition, and the publisher agreed. So that'll be coming out hopefully by next essay. So let's start at the beginning. For Basket Maker 3. First big Basket Maker 3 site that got excavated was Shibikashi in Chaco Canyon. Okay, that became the type site for a Basket Maker, except that everybody that dug Basket Maker sites after that said, that's not the type site for Basket Maker. Most Basket Maker sites are one pit house. This thing has 50. It turns out, after Tom and other people got done with it, it's got maybe twice that in a great kiva. Shibikashi is anomalously large. In Chip Roll's words, it's hugely larger than other Basket Maker sites. Which is what people are trying to make it go away ever since, because Basket Maker site's supposed to have one pit house or two pit houses. If you find a Basket Maker site with 10 pit houses, you write it up and retire. So here's Shibik with maybe 80 pit houses and a great kiva. And guess what? There's another one at Chaco called 423, 29 SJ 423. Same size. It's at the far end of the canyon. Shibikashi's way up canyon, about 10 kilometers, approximately 10 kilometers down canyon. There's another one. Chip, my good friend and pal, and Chaco scholar Chip Wilson, recently published an article because this worries him. He wants to normalize it. He don't want to make it go away. He wants to normalize it. Where he said, well, really, Shibik is hugely larger, and 423 is hugely larger than other Basket Maker sites, but really they're just two ends on a continuous Basket Maker site that extends for 10 kilometers. And goes, thanks, Chip. 10-kilometer Basket Maker site, I can take that. Now, I know there's big Basket Maker sites that are popping up in the Tuscas, and Dennis Gilpin told me about a monster Basket Maker period site over in Arizona. So it may not wind up being the biggest, but it's the biggest we know of Chaco. The Basket Maker component of Chaco is the biggest Basket Maker site by far, and the weirdest by far, and for my purposes, most interesting. And some of these things are measurable quantities. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so it starts there. Let's add Chaco. All right. Jump ahead to P2. I don't think we have to learn too much about Chaco being the largest, weirdest, most interesting P2 site. Okay, what happened to P1? Well, within the last 15 years, what happened to P1 was the Anderson Water Project. When I got into this stuff, I can't remember when Rich Wilshusen did this, but there's an article I think he and Scott Ortman published, or he had the second author anyway, listing all the big P1 sites in the southwest, and the biggest one they had, not by order of magnitude, but certainly the biggest was Blue Mesa, right south of Durango. Well, Blue Mesa is one end of the Animas Zapata project, an east-west extension. But they worked in Bridges Basin, just to the west of that, and found wonderful things for P1. And remember, on your Animas Zapata in Bridges Basin, there's no basket maker tree there. This thing just shows up. It's 10 kilometer long, or 10 kilometer long, massive P1 with, okay, let's dial up the weirdness. The Sacred Ridge part of that project, where they have Pueblo One towers and these igloos and these oversized pit houses. The weirdest factor is what, architecturally anyway, is it buries the needle. So I got to visit that before they closed it all up, and I'm standing there in Sacred Ridge, and Jim Potter, I was with Jason at that point. Jim Potter, I said, "Where are we?" And Potter said, "I wish you hadn't asked." So we're due north of Humboldt, Pop. We're due north of Chaco. You got a 10-kilometer basket maker site that's the biggest thing that we know of in the southwest. Moves north is just south of Durango with a 10-kilometer P1 site with all that weird stuff. That is, when you put it all together, it is probably an order of magnitude bigger than the next biggest P1 site. And then it pops back down into Chaco again, and we don't have to discuss Chaco, I hope, too much. It's just the weirdest whatever. This is where I can document the most interesting, because Chaco, Aztec, and Paquimé are all on the World Heritage List, so my God, they're the most interesting sites. Mesa Verde's on the World Heritage List too, but they got in on looks. Wonderful place, great park, but historic, in terms of history of the ancient Southwest, it's a nice place to be a peasant. It's a wonderful place to be a peasant, great place to be a corn farmer. Okay. All right. Next, okay, this is all going on within 130 kilometers, which is nothing. I got neighbors in Boulder that run that far for fun. Because they say it's fun. I mean, this is really nothing. These distances they mean nothing. They are north-south of each other. All these things are either directly north-south of each other or within a kilometer or whatever. We're talking about people that are doing surveying with a piece of string and a rock. And if I don't run out of time, I didn't look to see what time it started.
You're fine. Keep going.
Okay, we're going to have to put it in overdrive. Okay, 600 kilometers south of Paquimé. And I don't particularly have a problem with that. I mean, it's quite doable, and the fact that there be many segments of resiting and relining can give you that kind of accuracy. People have done computer simulations of this now where, it comes out pretty much what Paquimé is. That's P4. That's the most interesting P4 site in the southwest. It just doesn't happen to be in the southwest. Right? It's in Mexico, so it's not our problem. Well, that was it. For P4, you want to know what's going on in P4, look at Paquimé. And then what's going on up north is a reaction to that. P5, somebody tell me I'm out of time for some trouble here. In 1999, I noticed, I had an appendix in that book that said, well, if you keep going south, get to Culiacan, which is the northernmost Mesoamerican city when the conquistadors arrived. That's where the first entrada in the southwest is Nuno de Guzman. He launches from Culiacan. He comes, he's a thug. He goes through all Sinaloa, burning and, slaving and doing all kinds of stuff. And he finds Culiacan, which is the big city there. It's the biggest and the weirdest and all that stuff. He identified it. His people at Wright identified as that. He has guides that say, there's cities up there, I'll take you there. And he's mounted a whole expedition based on these guides. And they don't go up the coast of Sinaloa the way the Coronado did later. His guides take him straight north into the mountains. And they batter, they have carretas, they have Bermudas, they can't do it. They can't go up and over those mountains. So he turns around and he gets in trouble, has to go back to Mexico City and, goes to jail and all that kind of stuff. But that was the first attempt to reach the southwest. It was not going up the coast, not going up the interior, it was going Culiacan north. Because that's the way the Indians did it. Well, the Indians could do it, they were on foot. They didn't have all the cars. Okay, quick one on Culiacan and I'm out of here. There's a lot of archaeology and a lot more to that argument, but the cool thing is just in the last couple of months, Alexander von Humboldt is a savant of the late 18th and early 19th century, and just a god in Mexico, and they have statues to him, and he's like the godfather of geography. He went to Mexico City, he published a map in 1806, this is when Mexico's still Spanish, okay, and it shows what I'm about to tell you. He compiled it in Mexico City from old maps and from Mexican scholarship, Spanish scholarship at that point. This is the best guess of the Spanish at that point. It shows the home of the Aztecs in the southwest. It's a pretty good map. Okay, he never made it up here. He's compiling it from native maps and things like that. First home of the Aztecs, and the Aztec doesn't necessarily mean the guys at Tenochtitlan. Aztec just means people that come from Aztlan. So the Mexica Aztecs are one group, there's scores of other Aztec groups. The first home in the Southwest, before they leave, is south of the San Juan, just about below where the Animas comes in. The Animas is well marked on this map. Okay, think about what's big south of the San Juan, sort of, below where Animas comes in. Last home of the Aztecs is Casas Grandes, before they leave. On the map it says, this is their last home, and I'm actually conflating this, so if you want to see the map, there's an intermediate step here. It says, before they left for, I need help, this is why I have this. Huiculcogan, Huiculhuacan. Okay, through the Tarahumara country. They leave the Southwest from Casas Grandes, through the Tarahumara country to Huiculcolan, which is Culiacan. It's Culiacan, and they go through, you know what this means? They go, through the Tarahumara country. They go over the mountains, just like Guzman was being told to come from the south. I don't have time. Thank you very much.